Welcome back, everyone, as we continue to sail forward here, and we are approaching the island of the imagination where we are going to get some sun over in Sicily, fabulously, going back to Taormina. So, quick show note, the show will be very sporadic, maybe none next week, but when I'm in Taormina, I'm probably going to have to. Got the same place as last time with that insanely beautiful view. Welcome back. Artist Journal, April 12th. 2024, struggling past the finish line here. Thank you for coming back and welcome back, and thank you for all the support. This is the longest I've gone, I think. It's one of the longest stretches I've done without a break, which is since December. Since late December, maybe, I don't know, the 21st, something like this. This show has been going on a, I think, just steady as she goes. We have been sailing. You know, we have gone on a huge trip, so now we are getting to the island of sun and fun and relaxation and to charge our batteries to repair the ship. You know, it's funny, I brought up the foundation versions of these gorgeous works by Kiro, but my processor, and hopefully everything's working here. I may be choppy in this recording, hopefully the recording sticks. I was getting a lot of problems from, it was just, they're heavy files perhaps, my processor was going out of control, the fan was going crazy. So I got these from Twitter, which I think tends to compress things a little bit, so that has to be kept in mind. But at least here they are, and I think they're a little lighter. So beautiful work here by DJ Kiro, who we've been looking at for, I'm sure, over a year. And I think we've started the show, I think once. We started with Kiro, and Kiro has been very close to kind of edging to the top here, and like, where it'll start, and then, okay, then this comes in, whatever. I'm thrilled to have Kiro here, because he just keeps on putting out these beautiful works. Keeps on putting out these beautiful works, and there's something about this piece, right? I know not what. There's something about it that I just really enjoy. And I guess if we had to, discuss it, like, in a sense, like, to me, something seemed to have happened in the collaboration with Rannick Steer, maybe 6 to 8 months ago, I'm guessing, a lifetime away for most of us now, where that in that collaboration where Kiro would just do this slight glitch, this tiny glitch. This just like where a little bit of color, it doesn't need too much. It's not like a glitch that moves and everything's going all over the place. It's just a shimmer. And what we get are these, what I'd call interesting, abstracts, these video abstract paintings, interestingly. Video paintings. They look like, they're kind of like, and there's something very painterly about it. Is what I'm trying to say. There's something very, like the experience that I have when I go to a museum and I look at works by, say, the abstract expressionists. To me, it feels like a similar kind of experience. It's a little different. It's got the shimmer, so it moves just a little bit, right? And interestingly, it's like almost like the color is getting glitched out, but the composition, it's moving a little bit. We see it over here, but it's not really, it's still relatively static. And it creates a very interesting effect. Again, it's because it evokes the feeling of a painting. And look at this one. This one's fabulous. Let's see if we can make it larger. And this is of a flower, something we haven't seen very often. It almost looks like a collaboration that you could do with like Nuv 1914. And that's the beauty of this style, is it can really be applied to almost anybody, right? Like you could, like what's cool about what Kiro has done, DJ Kiro has made a process that can remix anything, right? Or anything that's static, even moving. Because sometimes we see that with the anime works by Kiro, right? So, really moving work, and it's selling. Auction started by Jimmy Edgar on bass, so Kiro's doing awesome. So, thanks for posting that, by the way, in the Artist Journal community, Kiro. So, more painting, right? More video paintings. Just very interesting. And here, this one's scrolling around in this interesting juxtaposition and these wonderful textures, kind of celebrating, the texture of video in a very painterly way, right? Like, I mean, there's a painterliness, a brushstrokedness, like that same texture that you appreciate in a, abstract expressionist painting, the brushwork or whatever the case might be with maybe a Rothko, which really aren't holding up, I dare say. Interestingly, my friend had a great insight. My friend Arnaud had a great insight on a Rothko, which is he photographs really well, is what he said. Because when you see him in person, to me personally, and he was feeling the same way, they're a bit of a letdown. But when you see a Rothko photographed, and I even took a photograph of the painting, and the photograph looks 10 times better. Because you get the light that comes in a little bit, and it kind of adds another level. Just kind of interesting, isn't it? And he's saying, these things just look great in books. So, especially when you make them small. Interesting. So, all to say, though, that texture that you might enjoy in a Rothko, there's a painterliness to this. Even though it's moving here, there is a texture that is being celebrated here. And what I love is he's even taking, seemingly, it's not clear, it's ambiguous, seemingly taking brush strokes. Like, this looks like paint, doesn't it? So that is interesting, and I adore this piece here. And then there's this piece here. So, all to say, Kiro's doing awesome work here, clearly, and it's selling. Jimmy Edgar picking one up, or more, and then there's this super interesting piece. So, just really cool work here from Kiro to get us started, and I think this has, of course, it's DJ Kiro. This is on Zora. I think there's, let's see, because some of these have music. This one, okay, this might not. Some of these had like techno, which is pretty cool. I think we looked at that. Here's a collaboration with Ranixdeer. So as you can see, kind of a Ranixdeer type composition, and Kiro's remixing, again, taking that music mindset, that techno music mindset, and applying it here. Interestingly, one could argue, in this stunning, gorgeous work that we just started. These are hilarious posts here from Kiro. Here's another one. A little bit more of a glitch, right? But these, again, I want to call them video paintings. Is this a new genre? Is this a new genre? Here's another one. I'm not sure if that's Ranixdeer. It could be. It feels like a new kind of genre is going on here. So, or it's Machine. This is Machine. So, very cool. Very cool work here. So there's Kiro. Go follow him on Twitter, getting us started here. And we saw this one. And this is a collaboration, exactly, with Ranixdeer. Or, I think, one times DJ Kiro on bass. So I'm pretty sure that is a 50-50. And here we saw this one. And maybe this one has the techno. One of these had techno in it, I thought. And that was pretty cool. Maybe it's in the community. And you hear Kiro's talent. So here is another one, and I think we saw this one too. So all to say, wicked work from Kiro to get us started. Big shout out and thank you to Holst for this wonderful, very nice post here. Posting Skamra's gorgeous work, and thanks for just re-evoking this work. This is just a stunningly, again, all of Skamra's poetry here on full display. Pocobelli in the study with a laptop. And just beautifully presented, I might say, by Holst. Holst Collection Skamra. This looks like a MoMA publication or something, and a very nice write-up here. So just a big shout out and thank you to Holst for picking that up, and just for the comments. And big thank you to John Cates. We had a really cool discussion. There's a lot of depth to John Cates, and I felt like we were simply just scratching the surface there with John Cates. So we'll have to have him on again out of Taipei, but really, I think out of Kentucky originally. So super interesting story with John Cates, super interesting artist. So a big shout out to John Cates and everybody who listened in. If you want to hear it, it is right now pinned in the Twitter feed. You can find it also maybe in the highlights. And big shout out to Runtune and his sister, actually, who made a cameo. And comments on the show. Last show, Kyle Flemmer, have a great trip. Thank you. Sarah Kretschmer, have a fantastic time in Italy. Thank you both. Really looking forward to just recharging the batteries and getting up. It's so important to just get out of town, right? Rada Yonki, big fan of Killer Acid, and we're actually going to have a follow-up story. To me, this is like the most exciting story in art right now. Like, whatever you're inside and outside of blockchain, like what happened with Killer Acid's auction? Like, there's no question I kind of want to know more about. I brought it up, so we're going to find out today. Thanks a lot for the shout out. You're welcome. Where do I live? In the heart of all my collectors. And indeed you do, Rada. Indeed you do. Also, I want that one Pez. So that was a work we saw last episode. Very interesting work. Cider with a super interesting comment here. Great episode. More at the 1 hour mark. So thank you for listening that far. Cider, at the 1 hour mark, you more or less you talked about base taking over Arbitrum and so on. And actually, we're going to see more evidence of that. Do you think there's a chance for another chain to come and take over base's position? Definitely. I would say there definitely is. It doesn't feel like it now. And I have a feeling base is going to be kind of like the Binance Smart Chain. Not to get too in the weeds for those people that aren't super familiar with crypto, but I think it's going to be around for a while because it's Coinbase's, right? And as long as Coinbase is around, they're going to have interest in keeping Base going. In a sense, you could argue it's a kind of what they've done. I think they forked Optimism. And I have to say, the user experience with Optimism, I would have done the same thing if I were them, forking Optimism. I think that's what they used rather than Arbitrum. But basically, it brought up an interesting discussion over this whole CC0, right? Because what happens when all of a sudden Coinbase copies the code and then forks it, as they say, and then all of a sudden they're way more popular because they're Coinbase, and then where does that leave Optimism? I mean, how do they feel about that, right? It's an interesting discussion because I think it really highlights this whole CC0 thing, which is we might call it a core value of the crypto space, right? And, I appreciate that value. I think it's actually pretty rad. I use a lot of appropriation. I don't want to be taken to court for appropriating, right? So I put it this way. I think fair use is actually I think I brought this up last episode, is a very subtle way. It's actually brilliant legislation, I'd say fair use, because it kind of straddles the balance between allowing freedom in appropriation and kind of being able to use what's out there while protecting, to a certain degree, creators, right? So now, just to finish what Cider is saying here, would art on base be forgotten? So Cider's bringing up kind of the longevity argument, was what I'd be tempted to call it, which is there any point minting on a blockchain that might not be around? And basically, where do you mint? It's all a very interesting question. I would say Base is big enough where it's not going to be forgotten forever. It will be accessible in ways that maybe some blockchains might not be, right? I think Tezos, there's such an important collection of art on Tezos that the archaeologists, the digital archaeologists, so to speak, of 100 years from now or later, will make sure it's working. And probably at that point, they'll just be able to tell AI, can you make something that will, a machine or software that will run Tezos art, and then we'll just have it. So it'll be around. But it is interesting. It brings up this whole idea, and as my screen disappears here, it brings up this whole idea, here we go, that of, what was the idea that it brings up? Base's position, there is a certain, put it this way, I remember what I was going to say. It was very interesting how Base really got launched as an art platform. It looked like they went with Xcopy. It looks like a deal was made. Who knows? I'm speculating, but it looks like a deal was made where they say, Xcopy, can you release this on Base? We'll promote it. You're going to make a fortune, and do you have something special? Maybe they collaborated. That's what I'm guessing. I don't know, right? And once Xcopy, and it was a brilliant move, if that's true, it's a brilliant move by Coinbase, because all of a sudden, well, if Xcopy's doing it, well, it must be okay to mint art on it, and they've seen a ton of art show up on Base. And really, art is the key thing to have, I would argue, on your blockchain at this point. Maybe some DeFi protocols, but art is kind of like even you see it on Bitcoin now. I mean, what are people, it's all about the, images, like ordinals, the Bitcoin puppets, the node monks or node monkeys, etc. Although the rune thing, it'll be interesting, but that's almost a hybrid. You buy the NFT or the ordinal, and then you get runes that come as a result of buying this image. Interesting fusion of art and finance, actually, that's going on right now with this runes thing that's about to launch with the halving of Bitcoin. Now, probably really deep in the weeds for those that aren't super familiar with blockchain, but all to say, the way I would treat it is I like to bring new art to new blockchains. Let's put it this way. So I might make a series. Say with Bitcoin right now, I'm making works that are purposely small, 2 kilobytes, 4 kilobytes, in order to make it as cheap as possible to mint, because there are certain constrictions. On Tezos, that's where I love doing my sketchbook on there. I don't know if putting sketches, so to speak, my pixel art sketchbook, I'm not sure if that makes sense to put on Ethereum, right? And so Base will have its own thing. It's kind of like a layer 2. In a weird way, it's kind of like a Matic, right, of sorts, to get in the weeds, or Polygon, as people call it, or minting on optimism. It's sort of something that is not super, it feels like, I don't want to say it feels flimsier, but maybe that is the word. It feels a little bit weaker as a chain than, say, minting directly to Ethereum or on Bitcoin. And I would even dare say Tezos, because Tezos, so much has been minted on there, that there is so much great art has been minted on there, that it's social proofs itself. All of the great art that's on there, that you kind of go, so it's an interesting question. I think you can mint there, but the way I approach it is I kind of think, what makes sense to mint on there? According to what blockchain, what the blockchain is like, that's how I approach it. Some people will just keep minting whatever they mint everywhere else and then say, hey, I'll put it on Base, right? But it's an interesting question, and it kind of also brings up this interplanetary file server issue too, IPFS, where it's that's the beauty of, say, minting directly on chain with something like Bitcoin, and sometimes people do it with Ethereum, right? This minting on chain, but you have severe constrictions and limitations in terms of size there, especially if I think of Sider's work. So all to say, interesting question. I think it'll be around. It'll be like Binance Smart Chain. As long as Coinbase is around, I think you'll be okay, actually. And maybe now there's starting to be enough art on it as a result of Xcopy putting out work. We saw Uxine, we've seen others, that you're probably okay. But again, are you going to put your masterpiece oil painting on Base, or are you going to put it on Ethereum, right? So it's kind of like that. So interesting point and question, Cider. User, I can't remember who this is. I feel like I know who this is. Adrian, have a good rest. Vacation is very important. Indeed. Indeed, it is time for a vacation. Big time. Also, very interesting comment here on X, Skull Takes. I've been checking out Gamma. Now, Gamma is where Bitcoin ordinals can be minted, where you can mint your art. We saw that with Rinnyfish, remember? And that looked great. Just adored that piece. It was only $200. I wonder if it's still available. I've been checking out Gamma for inscribing on Bitcoin, and you can preload your images to get an estimate of what it will cost you. My pixel images are about 10 kilobytes, which for me is quite a large file. And it costs only about $11 at the slowest rate. That is pretty good. So sometimes you got to be careful with the slowest rate, because if you do too slow, it'll never get through, and then it gets kind of stuck there. So I generally wouldn't do the slowest, but it's a good question. Probably it does eventually get through when it's not as crowded. So very valuable info. And maybe it makes me think I should use Gamma, because I was using Magic Eden. I was just going kind of not really, I'm just going with whatever I could think of. but maybe Gamma makes a lot more sense for minting. And how cool is it that they have an estimate there? Very valuable comment. Eric Rodriguez, I appreciate the blurred lines between art and design, creating a dynamic intersection of creativity and purpose in this journal. Well, yes, it's a very interesting, ambiguous area, as we're noticing at the end of the episode, where we're seeing illustrations from, I think it was Business Week, that if you remove the context, you'd say, oh, that's beautiful art. But then when you say, oh, the context is, this is an illustration that was made for Business Week, then you go, oh, well, isn't that just an illustration then? It's interesting, right? Like, I think it shows, I think it brings up some very interesting, again, the blurry lines and that the context for a lot of images determines whether it's seen as quote unquote high art, right? So it's just kind of an interesting discussion. So glad to hear from you, Eric. Zuck Markerberg, love that name. You have a very vibey intro entrance. Always listen to a couple of first minutes. I'm not that heavy into art design at the moment. Ex-designers still love that early energy. So this is hilarious. Someone who's not even necessarily into art that much is enjoying the start of the show. I love that. It's Stratscape's music there that really helps. Gogolitis, thanks, Adrian. I just released the piece you mentioned, but my bad. I should have pinned it, and it's done now. I think I thought I had that. Oh my God, that title needs my total attention. That last show was awesome. Awesome to hear, Bosque. Glad to hear that. I'm always glad to hear that. Half the time I put these out and I'm like, well, it's just really great to hear the feedback, positive feedback. This is the work that Gogolitis was mentioning, by the way. How awesome is that? So it's kind of like an ad of sorts. I'm going to be on Warpcast. So... And I think I brought up Warpcast. Thanks for everybody sending DGen, the crypto, my way. I'm getting more and more, I'm kind of like everybody else, I think, in the sense of I'm getting more and more sold the more I use that platform. We even have, as you see in the W's here, we have some works from Warpcast that were posted. So slowly but surely starting to use it. And thank you everybody for posting in the community. We have a new one here, Epic Art. Thank you for posting. Fluography, just very interesting work. This was super interesting too from District 468. We not only watched the journal for the beautiful art, but also to learn. So ordinals. Heard Adrian bring it up a few times, got interested and explored, and today collected my first inscription. A work by the great Zah NFT, Z-A-H. For those that don't know, he has 568 works on Object. That's a good place to start. So picking up, you see the low file size probably right here. Very nice piece. Again, making art for different blockchains, right? So an artist I hadn't heard before. Thank you for posting that. I'm all over this. I love the ordinals thing. We're going to see a work actually coming up here. I'm going to show you a work. I have more to say on this whole ordinals thing. Ernesto, thank you for the beautiful work. That I'm showing this in the painting section. And here is Machine by Kiro. Beautiful portrait there, and here's Trippy Collector, and actually this was a great post. I brought this up. So thank you everybody for posting here. This is totally awesome. Ariel, awesome to hear from you, and Ernesto, and 2002 with these super rad works here. So, and look at Filippo Francocci. Look at this 3D version of that AI artwork. I mean, so just pretty amazing what's going on, and I believe I brought this one up too, Ernesto. So, this is using Adobe Firefly and Photomosh, so all sorts of interesting stuff going on here. And August Ground also coming up in 2 weeks or a week and a half on the Twitter space. So thank you everybody, and the wonderful, genial Kurt Hustle Collective. So here, the story of the hour. My kind of, in a sense, the headline in my brain as far as this whole art scene, this global art scene is concerned. Gamma.io, 20 minutes until the release of No Brainers by Killer Acid and Super Rare. So this was posted yesterday. Their debut collection on Bitcoin in partnership with Gamma. And of course, we've been hearing about Gamma for a couple of months now, I want to say. 40 drawn hand, one of one. So we saw this, right? So here it is. Super Rare times Gamma. Beautiful partnership here. And 90% have been claimed at $7,000 a piece. So that is like, I mean, this has to turn the heads of people from the traditional art world. Because they have to look at that and they have to be like, you have to be impressed. with that from a purely just business point of view. That is amazing. So it's still 4 available for those that have the funds and want to collect killer acid here. So look at that. Someone put 10 BTC. So you're already seeing the secondary. Look at that, 0.4 Bitcoin. It'll be interesting to see, like maybe a lot of speculation. 0.21 Bitcoin. Amazing. So, isn't that amazing? So here is the series, and here is the homepage of Gamma Originals. An original is a one-of-one original inscription on Bitcoin that is used to create prints. This collection updates over time. So what else is interesting here is we're looking at the parent-child and how it's a collection. I think the reason we have the parent-child, again, not to get too far in the weeds, is because it was minted on Gamma, I think. So maybe this is a great place to mint rather than, say, just using Ordinal's Wallet or Magic Eden. Maybe it really does make sense to mint on Gamma because it probably gives you a little bit more functionality than the other places. So super cool and interesting, and I have to say their website's beautiful. It's starting, like Super Rare and Gamma's website are starting to look very close together. Leprochant, when I imagine the delightful moment when artists displace programmers and their opaque collections and take control of the BTC chain, and here, showing a cedar plank work of one of those hilarious shows where you see these guys doing some bizarre contest or competition. But you know what? The reason I bring this up, first of all, interesting comment and kind of a beautiful comment, but imagine a work like this on Bitcoin, I thought to myself, and almost as we were just seeing with Killer Acid, like to me, this on Bitcoin, it does save $5,000 like overnight. Like this, you put some cedar plank. It's not everybody's thing, so who knows if that ever happens, Bitcoin, because of the proof of work, because of all the energy it uses. But it does, what I did love about this comment is just imagine what this would be worth. Like to me, it just has value. It's just fun to think about. So cool comment there from Leprochant. Kalo, look at this. So we're seeing the base effect on Zora. Total transactions on Zora. Look at this. Zora is exploding over the past few days, probably due to base mints. Makes a lot of sense. So give Kalo a follow there. Look at that. 30 million. These are millions. And was down at, under 5 million transactions for, the last year. And now is at 30 million. So it brings up Cider's question again. Is this sustainable? Is it going to go back down to 5 million, right? I don't think we're seeing, put it this way, I don't think, like Xcopy and his collaborator, they put out The Fly, Uxine put out a couple of works, but I don't get the sense that people are putting out their oil paintings on base. Let's put it this way, if you know what I mean by oil painting, putting out your most spectacular masterpiece that you've been working on for the last, 3 months that you want to put out. I'm not getting the sense, but everybody does it different. So I'm sure some people are, but that's not the general sense that I get. Interestingly, and here's Warpcast. Brian McAllister. Object frames now have actions. More coming soon. And what I loved about this, so could you just imagine if X had this? Like, they should really have this. And this is why people are using Warpcast, right? Because, how great would it be if X should just have this? Why don't they have this? Collect on object, exactly. Why can't we do this on X, there's something to be said here for Warpcast. And speaking of Warpcast, I think Rada might have put this out also on Twitter. Someone flagged me on this in the Old Masters, I love this group here. Rada, we can't read all this, but there's a super cool post by Rada on different card games. Card games are as old as paper itself. The real one, not papyrus. Let's say between the year 666 and 999. Here's an example of an original Chinese deck from the 10th century with suits and courts like modern playing cards. So all to say, Rada takes us through the history, really, of playing cards here. Super cool and beautiful and interesting. Look at this spectacular work here. So I do highly recommend checking out this post. This is on Warpcast. I think there was also one on Twitter and talking about tarot cards. This is awesome. So it looks like well worth the read here. As you see, and there's the Rider Tarot deck, and I think that's where we end up. So that very famous tarot deck. And there's the Aleister Crowley. I actually had that deck too, the Tarot Thoth to Aleister Crowley. It's an interesting one. I think that one's a bit rarer. A little bit rare. It's not as common as the Rider one. Anyway, let's continue. So we saw Demon Ego getting the shout out from Photoshop, and now Seba Sistero, made with Photoshop by Seba Sistero. So how cool is that? So we're seeing Photoshop give props to people out of the scene. How interesting. And hear from this young artist here, Gregorio Zanardi. So I think sometimes we see as Gregor. Look at these awesome paintings. This is a great picture. It's a beautiful picture and beautiful paintings, by the way. Very interesting paintings. So all to say, I just love that picture. I love that picture of this young artist with the paintings. Just makes me excited. So very cool there. And here's Demon Ego going through the sketchbook. For those that are wondering, or who have never seen this, look at just the creativity of Demon Ego's work. I mean, it's incredible. So we can't I'll go kind of fast here. But I mean, pretty amazing. And Demon Ego's doing pretty fabulous right now. We had him on the Twitter space about 2-3 months ago. I think it was December. So I need to upload all that stuff. I have it downloaded, but I need to upload it. Tezos, spending my evening glitching this VHS about Yellowstone. So just a glimpse into Tezos' studio there, who has made several beautiful works. And look at this, the same image. Just with all these different variations. I mean, if you were like mint crazy, you could just mint all of these, weirdly, right? I mean, it's pretty interesting. Here's Martin Bruce. Look at this stunning work by Martin Bruce. It looks framed here. It looks like a print, 1 of 20. And just all the revolution of this artist here, this revolutionary artist, Martin Bruce. And look at this. This is, let's see if we can make it bigger. Like, how and what is this? It looks very digital here. This looks kind of like real paint. Is this a photograph of paint? I'm not quite sure. It looks mostly digital, but there is definitely, seemingly here, a physical component. Seemingly. And maybe is it drawing with physical things? Drawing digitally with physical things? Not sure. But you see all of the interesting white on white here. See all the revolution of that artist. What an incredible artist, Martin Bruce. This is Mikkel Nolson in the frame. Christina Rosa showing off her new mural canvas, so they're still going. That's interesting. Powered by Netgear. Yeah, Netgear took over what was once called, I think, Electric Objects. So still, look at how great that looks. So she got from Exchange Art. So one of, I believe, one of Mikkel Nolson's works here in the frame with this very nice Passepartout. Look at how great that looks. Stunning. It doesn't even look like a digital. Continuing on, and this is on Warpcast, here is Guillaume Cornet in a frame. And of course, a lot of these works are physical. So this looks like an original Guillaume Cornet, and we're going to see some more in more of the illustration area. And here is that, I want to highlight this article that was posted in the community. This is Kristen Roos's website. And it has here, Paint a Timeline. And of course, we're seeing this series that Kristen Roos is putting out. And I think I actually remember this series here. And we'll go back to the website in a second, but we're, celebrating these different softwares. Very educational. Commodore 64, this is OCP Art Studio. So just very fun and cool and looks pretty useful, doesn't it? To know to do all this research, surely this would give you more dexterity and ability as a digital artist, right? I mean, so, 1968, going through what looks like the evolution of software. Look at that, It looks like one of those. It looks like, yeah, I'm not even sure. Like, this is out of Ottawa, interestingly, and that's not a mouse. Like, I wonder how they're even making that. Maybe it's programming. Who knows? But all to say, look at this essay. This very useful essay by Kristen Roos. So this was posted in the community. So just super cool. And here we see Andy Warhol and the Amiga, interestingly. And Fantavision 1985. We've been seeing a few works by Waffles recently. Byte by Bit. Here's Hockney with Quantal Paintbox. Never even heard of that one. So all to say, this is super rad. Apple IIe, computerized too. And there's videos, and there's Deluxe Paint 4. So this looks well worth studying, doesn't it? Super interesting, and even this whole series here. So very cool series, and this is almost sold out. Interestingly, there's one left on primary. After that, it's 85. It's interesting to see what sells out. So beautiful, beautiful. Just 3-color work there. This is Ed Marola, speaking of software, probably using Sprite here, and has put out a Monday Freestyle pixel art drawing, so you can see Ed Marola in the studio here. So how cool is that? And he narrates over top and tells what he's doing as he makes an artwork. And here, I believe, is that artwork. Because, of course, here's the video. Watch me do the textures here. So just pretty cool. You can see Ed Marola in the studio making a canvas, so to speak. Kind of an edgy work there with the plane, and there's the river, and the skeleton there waving. So all sorts of interesting things going on there. As we continue, so here's Zozo with a more revolutionary artwork. I mean, totally wild artwork here. I mean, I can't help but be amazed. I can't help but be amazed by this. Like, this is, who would ever make this? And I love it. I have to say, I love it. House Spirits, edition of 10, 350, 2 already gone. Like, this is some really wonderful avant-gardism, I want to call it. Here's Wozo on Zora. Enjoy the enjoyment. And you can mint for 777 enjoy. So here is, I'm not sure how enjoy works. I assume it's basically the same thing as dgen, but maybe slightly different, that you use on Warpcast. And so here's just another wild work. Really, again, these Martin Bruce, Zozo, Nuv 1914, some just darn interesting work. Here's edition of 1, Pensamiento, owned by Santiago, picking this up. And so just another just wild artwork. The experimentalism here, the competent experimentalism with huge consistent bodies of work behind it. I mean, that just builds, there's a real credibility to these experiments here that are happening. They're just super interesting artists, especially when you see them lined up all like this. Amazing. Now, speaking of amazing, the Fail Artist Series, number 81, Self-Portrait, the High Roller Club. Just another beautiful work here. This is 5 Tezos on primary, and there is the high-rolling failed artist, so things have turned around. And this beautiful, again, combination of the texture and the non-textured paint. Gucci on the cast now. Things have turned around for the failed artist. It is a boom and bust industry here. And paying 5 Tezos for the Dom Perignon, and Ronald McDonald now serving the failed artist here with the fries on the head and all sorts of things going on there. So, edition of 12 for 5 Tezos. Get it while you can. 4 gone so far. Continuing on, PP Universal with another kind of cool experimental work here, Gallardo. And look at this. So all sorts of wildness going on, basically seeming to use outlines, even a little bit of kind of processed photography, a little bit. All sorts of great textures here. Look at this. Amazing textures. So very interesting piece here from PP Universal. Interesting margin there too. I think it helps. I think this white margin is letting the work kind of breathe in a certain way that it might not be. It's very interesting. Edition of 5 for 10 Tezos, sold out. Nice work, PP Universal. Great piece. Here's Gianluca Smigone, Whispers in the Fire Digital Fantasy Collection. So here is a new one, and maybe is that an Apple Vision Pro? It's tempting, or some sort of virtual reality gear. And this beautifully digitally painted work by Gianluca Smigone, and again, similar color scheme to the other works with these figures here that are almost lit up in orange and pinks. Great, and connected here through this wire. So almost, going around virtual space here a little bit. Almost this Phoenix figure. Interesting combination of iconography. This is an edition of 31 and for 14 Tezos, and look at this. So very powerful collector base here. 7 left. Nice, very nice work there by Gianluca Smigone. Here's Lord, Beyond Echoes, a 1 of 1. This is on Ethereum, right? You can see over here, so not on base, interestingly, to our earlier discussion. And here, just another interesting work by Lord. I never know how Lord makes their works. And this is a 1 of 1 in honor of my father, who rests in peace. So sad kind of line there. So all to say, just more interesting work from Lord. And here is De Taste, Espejismo, and another interesting kind of combination of textures here as we see the mountains and this kind of mysterious yellow bean. And look at that interesting kind of shadows here. Like we see the mark making of the road, like the yellow paint is one brush, and then you have this very textured brush, and the trees look like a different one. So playing with different textures here. Very interesting effect. Edition of 1 at auction for 8 Tezos, and District 468 has put in a bid. Lewis Harriet, this is off of Instagram, so this may be a real, quote-unquote, illustration. Not sure if this is digital or not. Kind of a surreal illustration here, though, as we've seen before from this artist, so just interesting piece there. And a beautifully, I don't know what's different in this one, that by Daniel W., edition of 1, selling for 25 Tezos. I don't know if it's the shading. Something about this work feels a little bit different. In the shadows, there feels like there's a little bit more kind of textured shadow in this. And again, playing off of that, I think, Goya work of Saturn eating one of his children. A famous Triumph of Baser Instincts is the title. This is in trichroma. This is a newer one. So, and look at this margin. Look at this wild margin, right? Kind of almost like a square piece. Just very interesting. Looks beautiful. Would make beautiful physical work for color. And it's just made to print, practically. Very cool. Fabula number 19. So here's Guillaume Cornet, and this is Rotring pen markers on paper. So this is a physical. So kind of mixing things up here. This episode, putting the illustrations all together, and broke down. So look at all the detail. We saw this in the frame, just to give us a sense of maybe what the scale is on this. 4,700 pixels by 4,700 pixels, but this is a physical, I believe. Edition of 100 for $350 each. Here is Katarina Create, edition of 10 for only 1 Tezos each, and they are starting to go. And last time we saw the woman on the bike, now we're seeing the woman on the skateboard with this beautiful background of this kind of green and pink dream scene here. Sunset skateboarding. Beautiful. That could be Tempelhof here in Berlin, where people skateboard there as the sun sets. Pamelo Chirone. Look at this. So I haven't seen a ton from Pamelo recently. Looks like some different kinds of experimentation here. I think this is digital, but you could also see this working as a physical. Video Pam. So interesting. Interesting title. And here is the work by Ernesto, who's going under EASCH. And this work we see posted in the community. And so just a nice abstract here with beautiful textures. And the title on this, cool colors here too. The title is in Spanish, I think. Siesta de Verano. Is that Sleep of Winter? Not sure. So all to say, subito, maybe immediately. All to say, cool work here from Ernesto. And also kind of a cool work on Warpcast that I found. I think it's Chain Left is the artist. And just an interesting piece here, isn't it? Kind of reminds you of Waffles a little bit in its kind of interesting use of kind of digital style and animation. And again, or almost like a Kiro type glitch there with like just the shimmeriness, right? And here is Waffles. So we saw this on Twitter, but here it is in large, now on bass. And again, kind of playing off of those TV shows. So this is, now is there a way of seeing the provenance activity? So this was minted, interestingly, but maybe not for sale yet. Interesting. Always interesting how Waffles sells the works. We got a few here. Onomatopoeia. So here is another interesting work. So minting on bass. This is the latest thing that Waffles is up to here. Minting on bass. Kind of looks like baseball and some figures in the background. Testimonial. So more interesting work here. Kind of internet reference, one thinks. And here's some text that's kind of, processed, right? And then these fuzzed out figures here, and then someone with a cigarette in the foreground. I mean, Waffles can pretty much do anything, and it seems interesting to me right now. So just very cool work here. Here's another one, Sobriquet. Again, playing with that kind of fuzzy figure here in this little square here. And interesting title and cool animation. Looks like maybe mixing a couple of softwares, perhaps. So that is cool. And let's continue. We got another one, Ensign, which feels like a different software entirely on this one. Let's see if we can get this playing. Computers, I'm freezing from what I can see. Are in the computer here. And here we have Tom Battle as I return to the screen here, Forest UFO. As we continue to run through this so beautiful new work here from Tom Battle, we have our figure with a UFO in the forest. It was hilarious on the Twitter space, the X space. John Cates was saying how you love yourself some pixel art, don't you? Indeed, and that has happened while doing this show. It was kind of a controversial thing in my own mind to start showing pixel art, and now it's like every show, it has its own section. Here is Michael Micasso with a cool work posted on X with these great designs and everything. Very nice piece here. Seems to have an endless supply of work. Manidal, cool work here. Don't think there's any audio on this one. Oh, there is. There is. Manidal at the... Wow, this digital doorbell. I don't know if you could hear that. So, pretty amazing. New Cat Once a Week collection on Zora. So, it continues there. And here's Anis Abdin. And I don't think there's any volume here at the beautiful kind of green nature scene. This is a mock of AI pixel art. We saw this last time. I drew it 100% manually and animated by hand. Took me hours, while with a single line AI prompt, one can generate it in seconds. So, it's almost... so, Anis Abdin kind of seems to be satirizing, to a certain degree, AI artwork, AI pixel art, and trying to almost do it manually, what would look like what AI would produce, interestingly. So, interesting there. Dot picked. Love this one. Very poetic. This could be like an impressionist composition here, with the water flooding the stairs. This moment in nature where nature meets, civilization, so to speak, with the cement and the stairs. Very powerful. And of course, we see the animated version juxtaposed with the static version by Anis Abdin. And here is Arts of Wind. We've seen this artist before on Instagram. So just a wild artist, that same palette. The perfect cat ear pose for cute 2-bit girls. So interesting artists, and there's a cat on the head. Interestingly, and continuing Bounce by Kareem Safa. So also a work on bass. Look at this. So now is this... So Foundation has a little bit of a weird thing going on when you maximize it, as you'll see, because it makes it look like the composition is has a big black area underneath, but that's not the case. This is the composition here, but cool work by Cream Safa, kind of the pioneer, really, of the pixel art factory style, as you see here. Black and white version. Here's John Cates, Which Way, Which Crypto Cowpokes. And this is a Glitch Western 1 of 1 from John Cates, edition of 1. So, kind of nice processing here. Nice video processing, cool glitch, and by the pioneer of the Glitch Western genre. So, cool work there. We heard all about it, what John is trying to do with this series in the Twitter space. And here's Evelyn. Listen to Pocobelli and John Cates' conversation yesterday in the X space. Brilliant. I feel very similar listening to Commodore 64 tape sounds as a kid, so I had to make a Cates cowboy. So here, Evelyn makes quite a beautiful cowboy here, their own contribution to the Glitch Western style. Here's Blue 281 on Super Rare, and I think it just got on, so a cool work here. Interesting piece with this kind of machine building, kind of juxtaposed with this patterning, black and white patterning in the background and everything. Just a cool work here on Super Rare, part of a larger series inhabiting a digital void. This is called Colony. Nice enigmatic title, and this is going for 0.3 Ethereum. And continuing on, this is Violet Tripp, I think. I don't see, where is the name of the artist? Violet Tripp. Okay, glad I got that right. This is Violet Tripp here on base. So mint.fun. Mint 1, mint 2, mint 3. So very cool. I wonder how many have been minted so far. 202. Mint sales 0.2 ETH. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. $600. Well done. And basedgirl.exe. That is very cool. And using that coin at Coinbase Blue. Brilliant. Rainbow disgregation, and this is Renato Marini. And this is a new one, and this is edition of 25 for only, I think, a Tezos 25, as you see here. Just an interesting conflation of pixels in the middle. So this is a Tezos 50, and they are moving. They are moving. Francoise Gamma, this is called P. So continuing this series as the shape of this sphere seems to be changing shapes. It almost looks like, you know what this looks like to me? Combining softwares, where you get the sphere in one software and then you put it into a different software, which maybe interprets it as these kind of, pixels, like these squares, right? That's what that looks like to me, is exporting across different softwares. What also could be called layering effects, interestingly. Enjoy, Glitch Western. So this is for Enjoy. 77 Enjoy, 7 minted. So here is John Cates' pixel art. Glitch pixel art cowboy. So how cool is that? That is on Zora, and it is available for only 77 Enjoy, 7 minted so far. And here's another one. This is Niku P from Warpcast. Late humans were living in caves made from single-use plastics. And P5JS Arduino, which I haven't heard of, Photoshop and coffee pods. Hilarious. And look at this cool work. And there's the coffee pods. Quite an interesting piece, I thought. And look at this. Just for example, for those that aren't on Warpcast, then someone says, hey, I like that. Here's 100 degen. I mean, what is it at? 4 cents? That's $4. Right? Oh, here's $8. Right? Show more. So all of a sudden, just for posting this, this hasn't even, necessarily even been minted. Maybe it is. Niku P has picked up $12, right? And that's just a day ago. So how cool is that? Here's another really interesting, weird, unusual work. Glitched deeper and post-processing I and AI. So maybe there's some AI in here too. This is by Genresis. Edition of 5 for 5 Tezos. Kind of a wild work here. Maybe this is what's making my computer freeze a little bit. Wild work here. Kind of looks like a combination of a little bit of photography, maybe some AI, some interesting glitching, some pixelation. Interesting piece there. And continuing on here, I'm going to actually close that just in case that is the one. So Silva Santu's Vaporwave. So beautiful glitch ROM here. Push start. And this looks like a racing game, but it's not clear. not clear. Look at how wild and just full and rich this looks. So beautiful work for Silva Santus. This is open edition at a Tezos 30. Silva Santus does Tegenhoff, La Piedra di Turagua. So I thought this was a new one in the series, but this is actually from a year ago. We may have already showed this about a year ago. I was thrilled to see the series back. Kind of a combination, I think, of AI and pixel art. I think AI-generated image, edited and animated by Tegenhoff. Yeah, just a great series. That is going at auction for 1 Tezos, edition of 11. Here's Glitchtown Arcade with a new one, 7. Again, using this frame here and going very abstract in the glitch ROM, which I think is pretty cool, actually. It was funny, I asked John Cates about if he'd ever did the glitch ROM thing. His answer was like very technical, like, well, by glitch ROM, do you mean like corrupted using the software, or do you mean the hardware version? Like, it was hilarious. It shows, I mean, John Cates really knows his craft there. Beautiful work, Glitchtown Arcade. This is sold for only a Tezos 50, one of one, so collector getting a steal there. LA Low, Trash Bag, Season 2, Episode 13. Let's see if this one loads up. May have to try reloading. There's the pizza. I'm kind of mesmerized here. It's kind of scary, isn't it? Wow. Mysterious video art. Again, but gripping. This is so much more gripping than what I often see, in, contemporary art museums, frankly. This is very gripping work. So isn't that interesting? I don't know what to make of that. It's like the Kurt Hustle Collective. It's very interesting, the video art that comes out of this scene. Let's continue before my computer fries. Guru Hyena, just kind of a cool work here, posted. And again, you see people just like 400, 700, 1400, I mean, times 40, times 4 cents, right? Like, I mean, is that like, what is that? Like, is that like 30 bucks? Is that like, I mean, so in a sense, like, we're all crazy for not being on Warpcast here. If this is what's going on, enjoy the good times while they last. Maybe it keeps going. I mean, that could go global, right? I mean, I don't know how the economics work, but that is awesome. Continuing on, Stefan Dybus, Quality Time. So this is on Solana, on exchange.art. And don't forget, if you didn't see it, exchange.art is going to do their airdrop, I think, in like June or something. So you kind of want to collect and post and sell art as much as possible. I think at least till the end of April. I'm not sure if you have May or not to do it. So it's a good idea to post there. Anyway, cool work from Stefan Dybus. Great kind of CGI artist, I guess you could call them. 2.5 sol for 420 Tezos. I believe this is an edition of 1. It is a 1 of 1 3D animation on exchange.art. And let's just see here, because of course, when airdrop, right? So these airdrops can be massive. Something to pay attention to. Ernesto Ash, this was posted in the community. Artistas point, and this is from February. Kind of a cool pixelation here, and you see different kinds of dithering inside of it, which I thought was pretty cool. And here a little bit of photography, perhaps, or sampled image and everything. Cool work here, edition of 1 for 25 Tezos from Ernesto Ash. And here is Rinky, and we'll see if this plays. We shall see if this plays. The computer may be, I might not want to push it here. The computer may be, we're going to see, yeah, let's just let that one go. We've seen a ton of Rinky's work, and here's another one. Wafuka. This artist is totally awesome, aren't they? I mean, we've seen a ton of their work. I've been showing it for like over a year. Continues to kind of dazzle and surprise with every passing day, just like Walk here. With what I find these works very rich in color. I'm trying to make this big. Here we go. And I don't want to push my computer too far. Look at this. There's something very rich about these works here. And this is at auction for 1 Tezos for an edition of 1. So get it while you can. Sometimes you can really luck out if it flies under the radar on some of these auctions. Here's Santiago as we move into AI. The internet is magical, but you are even better. Beautiful title, as usual, and beautiful AI artwork here by Santiago. And here is another one in the same series. Kind of looks like a dragon or a shark or something is being mixed in there. Beautiful, beautiful work. Nice colored background too. Great colors and everything. Edition of 11. And look at 5 Tezos, and they look like they're all gone. How about that last one? All gone as well. 147 editions. But minted. Okay, so maybe you have to mint it. Maybe this is part of a series. Where you mint them yourself. Not sure. Here is True Face, Pablo Radice, Venice 2024. Kind of an interesting title. Makes you wonder if Pablo's at the Biennale. Look how beautiful this is. Of course, Pablo makes their own AI algorithms, from my understanding. This one's beautiful. There's something very kind of almost like 1970s art history book quality to the colors, that almost that faded kind of color. It's beautiful. Very rich work. Sarah Kretschmer. So a new work here. This is called, I think, Chiron is how you'd pronounce that. So another kind of landscape here with trees in it, combining different softwares. This is an edition of 5 for 8 Tezos. 1 gone. So nice. Sarah gets a sale here as she starts to continue to make inroads on Object, which I just think is awesome. Strange thing. Quoting Socrates, the only thing that I know is I know nothing, and I am not quite sure that I know that. You know, it's an important point that really Platonism is radically skeptical of knowledge, of this idea that you can have knowledge. So that's why and then it's not entirely skeptical of all knowledge, but it's saying that stuff that we can kind of determine as knowledge, we have to be very skeptical of. But if we do decide it's knowledge, we prize that, right? Because then it's like, because then you have something real, right? Then it's like you might have actually some kind of insight into what's going on. So interesting quote, and I love that quote juxtaposed with this very beautiful textured work with even a little galaxy there, kind of playing. It's like almost like a 1980s subject matter, but painted in a 1950s way with a Renaissance type composition. I mean, we have some serious mind melting going on with Strange Thing here. Here's Lily Illo, and with a nice write up here. And this is part of Plans for Future Forums. Is coming to Fellowship Trust. It's part of the post-photographic perspective. So more cool experiments with chairs. And here we see some legs put in this nice kind of painterly background. Here's Parsam Ostagim, Heads 1. As we pass the hour mark, and we're almost done here. We're almost on vacation as long as this saves properly. And so anyways, cool work here. Another CGI work, 5400 by 4300, fairly large file. Interesting, isn't it, that's CGI. Bondoso Bandido, Portuguesa, Lesson, Family is what you make out of it. I love this little bit of color here, contrasting with the black and white with this artist that we've seen a million works from. Look at how beautifully painted that is. Look at the texture. Just an awesome artist. And that texture, it just, the contrast that you get with the airbrush is so rich. It's just awesome. Very awesome. Look at this gorgeous one by Bobsik Mattia. I adore this work. This is a newer one too, and you see it starting to break down. The compositions. We've seen a million works by this artist. This is why you follow artists. Right? It's not like I show one and then it's like, okay, we never need to see another work by them again. This is why you follow them. Because all of a sudden you see this and you're going, what on earth is going on here? The liberty that's in these last two artists and as well as the experimental artists we were seeing at the beginning of the show, it's really remarkable. It's not easy. Here's It's Not Gallery, Danielle Fleur. Kind of a cool contemporary oil painting. Cool subject matter. And here's Andre Collard, Cream and Pink Roses, oil on canvas. It almost looks like oil on cardboard, but this is oil on canvas painted in a very specific way. And here is some more weaving. Kalim Anjero, the answer. How cool is that? It kind of looks like weaving, I'm assuming. And we have some more weaving coming up. Moto 583 with more revolutionary drawings. Just an incredible artist here. Again, the whimsicality, the freedom in these artists. And here's Machine with a wild work. Not sure if that might be a self-portrait, perhaps. And cool. Again, always kind of, you know, it almost feels like it's taken into Photoshop, and the liquify filter, or sorry, not filter, but a tool is used to kind of stretch things out a bit, maybe. Pretty interesting. I wonder if that's what's going on there. And this was an edgy work. This is also It's Not Gallery, William Darkdrack. Very edgy work. I almost didn't want to show it, but there's something, but we can't shy away from edginess. I felt like it was just it's a scary painting with all the shootings that go on. This is a scary painting to me. What looks like the Harry Potter. Let's call him Henry Potter, with Henry Potter there. Donnie O'Donnell. So we've seen a lot by this artist too. A really nice piece. Kind of has a bit of a American Gothic composition. And here's more weaving. This is Kayla Mattes at the Broad Art Museum at Michigan State University. Look at how great this looks. Look at how big it is, you know, and there's the Simpsons and everything. Just awesome. I think that's the artist. Maybe that's the artist. I'm not exactly sure. And the sweater. Maybe that's the artist. That's hilarious. And finally, Nugget Brain with another beautiful work. Kind of looks like a meme. Sounds of birds chirping. Just more brilliant art everywhere. So I hope you enjoyed the show. I'll be back in maybe let's see, no promises. I'll be back soon, but going to take a nice break, and I'll be back sometime while I'm in Sicily. Let's put it that way. Until next time, enjoy yourself, make a lot of art, and take care.